power when Ida had come through. So part of their team had evacuated to our station to continue their coverage of Ida in their viewing area. So in the meantime, while we play host, we're moving things in here just for a little bit, but we wanted to make sure you had all of the information you needed to know to kick off this Wednesday as many of you continue storm recovery.
There's a lot going on, and speaking of our friends there in New Orleans, that's exactly where the governor is going to be today. He's set to speak later this afternoon, but that's after touring Jefferson and Orleans Parish.
This is really part 2 of the tour. That kind of kicked off yesterday, touring some of the parts there. And given how widespread South Louisiana is, it's going to have to be split into 2 days, because you're talking about an area with no power. So how are you supposed to see it when it's dark? And you really want to take time to assess, well, what is the need there? What is the need in certain communities? So the governor said to do that, the second part of that today, and then we'll brief the media hopefully around 2:30 today.
Yeah, and we've seen that kind of, you know, the timing comes out and then it has to shift a little bit, because it's just, there's a lot going on. We'll let you know. You can stream it whenever it happens, and of course in later newscasts we'll update you with what he has to say.
Yes, indeed.
In our part of the world, actually there as well, all over, you know, the lines we're seeing right now at gas stations, and we don't want to trouble you with all the, you know, to make it seem like it's more than it is, but in a lot of places, getting gas is becoming the #1 issue.
We've seen stories of people waiting between 2 hours to 7 hours. It's taking a lot of time.
Yeah,
and so again, as Matt said, this is not to panic you, but it's really to first say, if you don't need to be out there, if you're just getting gas because you're hearing these stories and thinking, well, I need gas, I don't need to go anywhere, but I just want to have it. If you are an emergency worker, if you are a lineman, if you are somebody who is actively working in response to restore our communities, that's who really should be out and about right now. We know a lot of people are trying to get to family. We know a lot of people are having to work, or maybe essential workers. So when you talk about people who absolutely need to be out there getting gas, let's try to be good citizens. Let's try to be good, and if you really don't have to be out, please save it for them, because we are seeing these long lines everywhere that's causing traffic backups, and it's becoming a little bit of a nightmare.
It kind of is right now, and hopefully that begins to figure itself out in the coming days. More deliveries, so to speak, more facilities getting up and running, more gas stations getting up and running, that kind of thing. You mentioned the service crews coming in and trying to get back to work. We saw for a moment this morning, we took a shot of the Entergy outage map in New Orleans. Just still a bunch of red, but there was a little piece of green in New Orleans East. And I know it was small, but progress, no matter how small, at that, it was nice to see.
Yes, indeed. It's a sign of hope. It's a sliver of hope, because if you know it's coming back 3 days after Ida made landfall in that pocket, you know inevitably, slowly but surely, it is going to grow. So that shows you linemen are trying to figure out, assessing the issue, trying to figure out if it's safe to get out there. Tree trimming crews have to clear the way for those trucks to get out there, and then they're finally able to restore power in some of those areas. And so hopefully we'll continue to see that red map turn green in the New Orleans area. But here in Baton Rouge, we're starting to see more of that green. Albeit slowly, but it is still happening. We're hearing more people say, hey, I got power, it turned on last night, which is great news to hear.
It really is. And again, you feel so good, you know, like a coworker come in and be like, yeah, got power. I'm like, it takes me back to, you know, after the flood, obviously there's a whole lot of issues. Power took a while, but it really takes me back to Gustav. So from hurricane to hurricane, and I know for me it was a little bit more than a week. And so you just kind of get, oh, when is it going to be? When's it going to be? When's it going to be? It could be even longer than that. Will be longer than that for a lot of folks. But yeah, those small steps. But like you said, it's a process. Assessing, and then tree trimming, and then getting the line. It takes a bit of time.
That's why we keep checking this. We're going to continue following this story. We're going to continue checking that map from poweroutage.us, that live tracker. So yesterday, around this time, it was hovering at about 1 million. Well, today it's about 985,000. So again, as Matt said, a sliver of hope, and that is progress to report.
A little bit there. Okay, so speaking of in our little part of the world, we have a lot of running lists at WAFB.com and the 9 News app. Things continue to change. Things continue. It's a very fluid situation. One of the things that, what restaurants are open? What grocery stores are open? If I want to go in it. And we have that at the website.
The Baton Rouge Area Chamber sent us a list, an Excel document that they're working on to figure out which grocery stores are open, which restaurants you can get a hot meal at. And again, expect some of these menus to be limited, because delivery trucks are having a hard time getting through to some places. Obviously, power is an issue to some places, but we've heard some of the Winn-Dixie, some of the Mithurns, the Rouses, the Asian supermarket on Florida, all places you can go get groceries to hold you over until that power comes back on.
It'll be vitally important for folks as they, because when we talk about storm coming,
yes.
We talk about getting that food and that water ready to go, and we talk about, like 3 to 5 days, that kind of thing. Well, okay, this thing was landfall on Sunday. People were getting ready for a Sunday, an active Sunday, and all of a sudden here it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to deal with power outages for a while. People not getting to go where they would need to go for days and days and weeks. So we are going to run out of that food that we had stocked up if we had done the right thing. So restaurants and grocery stores, it's kind of nice to see. But something else that remains fluid as well, school districts in our area. And look, I've got 3 kids. In 3 different schools, and I know a lot of folks out there as well. Parents are like, what is going? How am I? Where is it? Who is it? A lot of school districts adapting literally by the day.
That's it. So all of the big ones are on here, and by big I mean the most populous ones. EBR, Livingston, Ascension. They're not going back until after Labor Day, so that's going to be next Tuesday. So obviously Monday was a holiday to begin with, but they're going to take this time as we still work to figure out power in most of our parishes and areas that have schools. Well, they need to restore power to those areas. So just to be safe, a lot of the students and families are probably dealing without power. We actually have that running list of school closures, which includes LSU, Southern, BRCC, all of that on there. So you can check to see, well, is my school closed? You can access it on your phone, which is great if you don't have internet service or Wi-Fi at home right now. Just a quick glance at it to know, am I taking my kid to school?
Yeah, exactly right. You mentioned, and we've already talked about the no power, power without power. A lot of folks' only power source right now is generators. And look, I know we say this all the time, and it sounds just overly redundant. We talk about generator safety, and we do it so many times during the hurricane season, and we've done it for so many hurricane seasons. I'm sure there's people out there like, we get it, we get it. But here's the thing. Happens all the time.
And this is really hard news to pass along. This morning we learned about carbon monoxide poisoning, a family, I believe, of 11 down in the New Orleans area.
I think it's now 12.
12 people?
Yeah, I think it's now 12.
Wow. And that involves quite a few children in that situation. We talk about generators, but obviously the risk there is when you bring it inside, when you're so desperate to keep the things running in your home, we get it. Look, there's a lot going on. You want to do what you can for your children. In this case, a whole family. You want to do and provide what you can in an awful situation already. But the danger with that is carbon monoxide poisoning, which could lead to death, and in this case, it did.
EMS working on dozens, and I think seven kids they were working on, trying to get them to help. But from one home dealing with a dozen of those cases. And so that's why we talk about it all the time. And again, it may sound like white noise to a lot of folks, but it's difficult to see, especially when you fall back to a year ago in Hurricane Laura out in Lake Charles, and you had more deaths after the storm than you did because during the storm. It's difficult to see.
It is, because there's a lot going on, right? So we've got the heat advisory. We've got people working outside while it's hot outside. So if you've got the AC running on generator power and you're just trying to cool off, please, or even have the kids talk this through with them so they're aware of what needs to happen, what reminders need to be said if this is going on, because we hate to report on these deaths and really to have that happen to families losing a loved one after losing a home.
So those stories, hopefully, even if it's just a sickness and they're able to turn out to be okay. Those are still difficult ones, obviously, to talk about. But here we are on a Wednesday morning, just before 9:30. If you're watching it live, if you're not, you're catching it a little bit later. As Liz mentioned, pay attention to the heat today. Another heat advisory as you're out there cleaning up. Steve talked about it this morning.
Yeah. Another thing to be aware of is heat indexes could feel about 105 degrees.
That's the one right
That's
there.
A lot. That's
105.
hot, especially if you've been working for long periods of time. So if you happen to have a cooler maybe full of ice water, or even just water in general, please make sure you're taking breaks. And if you absolutely need to cool off, there are shelters in EBR, the Raising Cane's River Center, the F.G. Clark Activity Center on Southern's campus, both open right now for people to cool off. And they're running, they've got power, they've got AC. So do not think, well, I don't need to go, I'm not going to take a space. That's why they're set up. That's why they're open for you, you and your family to go cool off.
And we're all going to need a reason to, we don't need a reason to cool off. It's out there waiting for us right now without the AC, and we're about to get ready to get back to work. So as you get back to work, South Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana, all of it, know that we'll be here for you as well.
We'll be right back here tomorrow at 9:15. In the meantime, come back on WAFB for 9 News at noon.
Bye, y'all.